Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this video, my group members and I will talk about the marine disaster MV JOOLA in Senegal. The MV JOOLA was a roll-on ferry owned by the government of Senegal. JOOLA was named after the people of southern Senegal. JOOLA went to sea in 1990. It was made in Germany, and twice a week it traveled and helped carry female traders who went to Dakar to sell palm oil and mangoes. The disaster of JOOLA is the second worst maritime disaster excluding military maritime losses. The event was so catastrophic that it is regarded as one of the greatest human tragedies of the modern world, with many as 1,635 people died. On September 26, 2002, the JOOLA sailed the seas. Unfortunately, it would be its last time. Before its large voyage, the ferry was out of commission for almost a year. The JOOLA was plying the road from Ziguinchor to Dakar when it hit a violent storm off the coast of Gambia. The colossal loss of life caused by the tragedy was a great shock to many Senegal and immediately led to calls from the press and public for an explanation of the disaster. According to many sources, the accident was caused by a variety of factors, including possible negligence, while rough seas and wind were directly responsible for the capsizing. The ferry was built only to be sailed in coastal waters, but it was sailing beyond this coastal limit when it capsized. Overcrowding is one of the most commonly mentioned factors in disaster, both for the capsizing and the high number of deaths. Due to heat and claustrophobic conditions below the deck, as many passengers as possible usually slept on the upper level, making the ship more unstable. The ship was only 12 years old and was built to be in service for at least 30 years, but had suffered a number of technical problems in the years before it capsized. These problems are now attributed to poor maintenance by its owners and not to any design or manufacturing flaws.
How it happened. The JOOLA was playing the road from Ziguinchor to Dakar when it hit a violent storm off the coast of Gambia. When the storm hit, the ship had gone farther out to sea. There were approximately 2,000 people on the ship at that time, which more than 3 times the number of passengers that was legally permitted on the vessel. The JOOLA was built to take a maximum of 580 people. Rescue efforts from the government did not come until the next morning. By then, a lot of people had drowned, and only 64 people survived on that disaster. The last call from the ferry staff was broadcast to a maritime security center in Dakar at 10 p.m. and reported good travelling condition. But then, at about 11 p.m., the ship sailed into storm off the coast of Gambia. As a result of rough seas and wind, the ferry capsized, throwing passengers and cargo into the sea within 5 minutes.
Safety measures out of the MV JOOLA incident. First, avoid overloading. As we know, the main causing MV JOOLA to sink is overloading with passengers and other things such as cars. And JOOLA has been carrying 2,000 people, 3 times the number of passengers that was legally permitted on the vessel. Second, avoid violating regulations. JOOLA was 35 km off the Gambian coast when it capsized, but it was about 11 hours away from the coast, where it was only permitted to be a maximum of 6 hours away from the coast and licensed to carry no more than 535 people. Last but not least, always check the weather before departing. JOOLA was sunk when it hit a violent storm off the coast of Gambia. The departure of JOOLA should be delayed or postponed if the weather is bad.
Impact to people and environment. Most of the people are angry towards the government because they refuse to talk about this disaster. The news said that there are no children on board survive. Mr. Dailo says the lessons of the tragedy have not been learned, as the authorities have tried to forget it by abandoning the victims at sea. The Senegalese government initially offered families a payment of around $22,000 per victim and fired several officials, but no one has ever been prosecuted, and the official report was closed a year after the disaster. Officials were charged with failure to respond quickly enough to the disaster, including high-ranking members of the armed force of Senegal who were moved to other posts. Despite this, little light was ever cast upon those who allowed the ferry to be overloaded or poorly maintained. Prime Minister Mame Madiaboye was dismissed by President Abdoulaye Wade after the disaster, with much of the cabinet reportedly was mishandling the rescue. In the 2000 election, Wade's rival and former Prime Minister Mustafa Nice accused Wade of covering up their responsibility for the disaster. Families of victims, many of whom have been unwilling or unable to claim reparation, have continued to be highly critical of the government over its handling of the rescue, the operation of the ferry which led to the disaster, and the reparation process.
First of all, we need to establish the crimes committed by Wade and that Wade organised a lack of cooperation in the JOOLA affair, which caused thousands of deaths. We can prove it and will fight to have the case reopened in Senegal.
It isn't fair. They promised to help us. They waited and waited until I stopped studying. It's not normal.
We need to determine responsibilities. A catastrophe of this magnitude can't be hidden away. Those who were responsible need to be punished so that a similar disaster doesn't happen again.
The conclusion is, from the JOOLA marine disaster, we must follow all the regulations for safety. Do not exceed the limit for ferry passengers. Always follow all the precaution and safety that was conducted by ferry cabin crew. That's all from us. Thank you.